This is the all-new Community Connection. I'm your host, Jade Harrell, keeping you connected to our community. A much-needed week of dialogue around race bias in the St. Louis region. It's called Listen, Talk, and Learn, Monday, August 3rd through Friday, August 7th. And anyone who has a heart or a thought or a feeling needs to have this dialogue, and that would be every potential human being in this community and in this region. I am joined by Rena Hajat Carroll, the Executive Director of Diversity Awareness Partnership, and they are creating a platform, a place for us to have this communication. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Jade, for having me.
You know, it is my great pleasure, and you are so very good with this. But tell me about Listen, Talk, Learn.
Yeah, absolutely. So after August 9th, after Michael Brown's death a year ago, we were not exactly sure what the community response needed to be. There were protests, there were conversations, and what we also learned was that there were people that were debating the issue of Michael Brown's death and, more importantly, race relations in our region.
Yes.
And there was a whole lot of misunderstanding and not listening to one another and not honoring each other's experiences. And so at the end of August, almost a year ago, we developed Listen, Talk, Learn sessions, and they are exactly to do that, to listen, talk, and learn with and from one another in our community and across the nation.
How amazing that this was something that you all initiated a year ago. This isn't a late coming, newly developed response, but you knew initially that this needed to happen last year. Now, share with our audience, for anyone who doesn't know, a little more about Diversity Awareness Partnership.
Sure. Diversity Awareness Partnership is a nonprofit we started in the St. Louis region 14 years ago. Our mission is to be a catalyst, to facilitate dialogue, facilitate engagement, and increase education around diversity and inclusion, specifically around the key issues of race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, and disability.
Mm-hmm. And that is your focus. That is your mission. And you've gotten a lot more work lately. In fact, you all opened up another office. Tell me how it's working and why it's working.
Yeah, we did. We just opened up our second office in Columbia, Missouri in March, and that is going incredibly well. And I think what it's indicative of is that people want to dialogue around these issues, but there's some problems. Mm-hmm. They don't know how. They don't know how to talk about race and racism and all of these really complicated and intense topics. And they also sometimes don't feel safe to talk about these really difficult, painful, traumatic issues. And what Diversity Awareness Partnership is able to do is create that safe space. Mm-hmm. We did a Listen, Talk, Learn last night, and a number of people came up to me after and said, "Thank you for creating a safe space for me." And we had raw emotion, tears, cursing. We had it all last night. And it was all around this topic of white supremacy, white privilege, what it means to be Black and brown in a country like this one, and what that does to your psyche, to your mind, to your heart, to your everyday behaviors. And it's just real. It's real people talking about their experiences. And particularly from a Black and brown perspective, it is important for white people to hear that and to honor those stories and those experiences.
Tell me why dialogue makes a difference. You talked about the responses to Michael Brown's death, where there was rioting and there was conflict and there was hate and there was uprisings. Those were all physical responses. What difference does dialogue make?
I think at the end of the day, we have got to understand people's perspectives and what their motives are. And if we can't dialogue about that, and we feel like, and we take the position that we know why people think what they think, and we know unequivocally, without a doubt, that that Black young men in Ferguson are thugs, and we don't question that assumption, That's a huge problem, right? And that's a barrier to improving any kind of community relationship.
Sure.
And so we heard that over and over again, where people were saying, well, they're thugs. Well, they need to get jobs. Well, they need to stop protesting. They need to go to school. Well, let's have a conversation about why certain behaviors are happening. And we can't do that if we're not talking to one another, if we just think what we think.
What's powerful about that is kind of around this informed community, a bit of the national trauma-informed approach, that we're not looking at one another with what's wrong with you, that we're taking time to say what's happened to you and bring up the why. Because not only is there a why at who we're looking at and making assessments, there's a why that we have to look at within ourselves. Like, why do I feel that way? And why does it bother me? And why does it stir up such judgment and anger with me? Yeah. I wonder, in your work, do you have an imbalance, or is there imbalance? I heard you say white people need to hear this, and Black people, brown people, people of color may say, well, white people only feel a certain way. Is there a disparity among understanding, or the adage, or you're preaching to the choir, the people that really need to hear this? Are we reaching them? And does it make sense that we're having this conversation to Black and brown people? And is there a balance there? I hope I'm...
Yeah. You know, and I think I'll just give you an example of how
I think
this works.
That people who aren't of color could feel beat up on. And I'm sure you've run into that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, absolutely. When people come to these Listen, Talk, Learns, they are coming in all kinds of different state of mind. So you have people that are open and ready to go and smiling and excited to be there. And you have other people with their hands crossed and are very uncomfortable, very defensive. And again, that's okay. We want every single perspective in the room. Because if we can't get the diversity of perspectives in the room, then we are preaching to the choir.
Yeah, we are.
Right?
Yeah.
So a wonderful story. This happened a couple months ago at a Listen, Talk, Learn. I had a young Black female, probably in her 24, 25. She was a protester, had been in Ferguson many of the evenings. She came up to me after the Listen, Talk, Learn and said, "Thank you for doing this. This has restored my faith in white people." So for 25 years of her life, assuming she was 25, she didn't think white people cared about her.
Cared at all, right?
Right? And that's just not the case. There are white allies in this community and across the country that do care and that do want to make a difference and that do want to see racial equity happening. Right? And we, as Black and brown people of color, have to be open to that.
Yeah.
Because we've got to work with them, right? Not against them. And that happened in that moment because that young lady and this white woman who touched her, they cried together, they talked together, and there was an age difference, there was an industry difference, there were so many differences. But what was common was that they both wanted the same thing: racial equity and justice.
I'm glad you brought up that, because there are so many differences. You named the very areas of focus and the very groups of people and types of issues that you deal with. There's differences all over the place. So the goal isn't to strip away or change people, but to create an understanding that there is a commonality between us, even with our differences. And that one of those key things here in St. Louis is that we are here in St. Louis together. Have you had folks come that say, well, I want to go and make sure they know they get a piece of my mind? You know, I wonder, folks that come to the Listen, Learn, Talk, are they only willing participants? Who should be there? And how do we make sure, if we're working together, I think it needs to be known that we're welcoming, again, the diversity of perspectives. Feel how you feel, be who you are, but come so we can even know that that's where you're coming from, and then even know how to deal with that too. Tell me about who should be at a Listen, Talk, and Learn. Who is invited?
we invite the entire community. So just to give you an idea, in the last 12 months, we have done more than 65 of these, and we have had more than 2,000 people come through them, and everything from young college students who are in the middle of their school's die-ins and trying to organize on their college campuses to Darren Wilson's wife's best friend.
She came.
We have had all of it. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes it is voluntary. So we do community, public, free listen, talk, learns.
Sure.
And people choose to come. And sometimes we do them in places of employment where companies say you have to go through this. Yes. And so there is a little bit of a difference there where you'll have a little more resistance when a company is mandating your attendance versus you're going to just come to the one at Left Bank Books or to the one at WashU like we're having during the week of August 3rd.
Well, let's make sure that we send out the invitation for Listen, Talk, Learn.
So we are doing a week of Listen, Talk, Learn, the week of Michael Brown's anniversary death, and we will be doing one every single day, Monday to Friday, at different locations throughout the city. Ameren, right in the city, the Holocaust Museum and Learning Center in West County, Christchurch Cathedral right downtown with Reverend Mike Kinman, Washington University in St. Louis, Left Bank Books, and then we will conclude the week with a Listen, Talk, Learn in the old post office, which is where the Diversity Awareness Partnership office is
located. So what makes this a safe place? If I were to show up, what can I expect?
You can first expect some sort of food, and something to eat, something to drink. Yes, we will
break bread together.
Yes, we think that is such an important part of creating a safe space. You will have a diverse group of people. We will talk to you, not talk at you, but just talk with you about what unconscious bias means and the fact that we all have bias. I don't care who you are. You have a stereotype, you have a bias, you have multiple biases, and we'll talk about the fact that that's okay and that we just have to commit ourselves to unlearn some of those biases.
Unlearn is a beautiful term.
Yeah.
To unlearn it. Mm-hmm.
And then we will do a few different activities throughout the session to really get you to understand what a lived experience that's different than your own might look like. And again, the Listen, Talk, Learns that we've done in the past, people have shared all sorts of things just around their experience with law enforcement, what it looks like to be Black and brown in this country, white people who have said, I stood up at my work and this is what happened to me, right? All kinds of stories. And we think that that is the first step to building relationships. And when you can build solid, meaningful relationships, then I think we can do a whole lot more.
We can. We most certainly can take that. How do you have a conversation around something so polarized like Mike Brown and Ferguson?
First and foremost, we have to make sure people feel like we're not judging you. And we're not. We're not judging you for why you think what you think. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and they think what they think. What we want to do is understand why you think it. Where did it come from? Is there any possibility for us to offer a new perspective?
And offering a new perspective is not to say you're right or wrong. There's a difference there, but I can see where that line could be blurred. Can you help us understand as well why it is so hard to dialogue when we feel so strongly?
Yeah, I mean, I think this all goes back to how you've been socialized as a human being. So from day one, you have gotten messages your whole life, whether that is from your parents, some kind of guardian, TV, media, to tell you what to think. And you certainly have channels in your life that will affirm whatever it is that you think, right? Let's just take media, for example. You want to think
other media.
But, if you want to think a certain way, you might watch CNN. If you want to think another way, you might watch Fox News, right? So those are two different sort of ways of thinking, and you can affirm whatever it is that your belief is. And so what we are saying is that if you can understand that process and then allow yourself to ask questions and to affirm your beliefs through data, through lived experiences, through others, testimonies, that maybe we can just share new perspectives. And let me be really clear. We are not doing these sessions so we can have someone come in and for us to call them a racist or a sexist or anything else.
Right. Or a thug.
Or a thug. That is not the point at all. We don't want to call people out like that because we don't think that approach works. What we think works is let's sit down, let's talk about it as the first step. Not the only step, but the first step.
First step to understanding, to community, to communication, to building a stronger and better St. Louis. We live here and love here for a reason. And who wouldn't want a better way to live and love in our region? Finally, this program airs on 5 very diverse radio stations. And you mentioned CNN, you mentioned Fox. On the Bull, our country station, this will air on 100.3 The Beat, the old school hip hop. Do I need to, I'm sure there's an awareness, but is there an adjustment that needs to happen in this message from one channel to the next to be suitable?
Honestly, I would say absolutely not. If we are going to listen, talk, and learn with one another, that means exactly that we want you to come as you are. We want you to bring your perspective, regardless of what demographics, socioeconomically or racially or gender, or if you're urban versus rural. We want you to come and share because we can't learn about people and we can't change systems and policies if we don't know why people think what they think.
Absolutely.
And generally speaking, I think people can say, well, we know why certain people think this way, or we know why certain people think this way. But when you are in an intimate setting of 30 people and you're really having a conversation, there are so many potential light bulbs that can go off.
Absolutely. So it's about 30 people each session?
Correct.
That sounds wonderful. And we are taking and inviting you to register to join the dialogue today. The hashtag even is Join the Dialogue. And you can register by visiting dapstl.org. A week of dialogue around race and bias in the St. Louis region beginning Monday, August 3rd through Friday, August 2nd. Your chance and opportunity to listen, period. Talk, period. Learn, period. I love how you all wrote that and emphasized it. The schedule of locations you can also find out by visiting dapstl.org. But briefly, on Monday, August 3rd, early morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. They'll be at Ameren, the general building off of Shoto Avenue, at 5:30 p.m. At the Holocaust Museum and Learning Center that evening. On Tuesday, August 4th, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Christ Church Cathedral, 1210 Locust Street. Wednesday, August 5th, you can go during lunch, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. at Washington University. On Thursday, August 6th in the evening at Left Bank Books. And then on Friday at the DAP office location, the old post office, in the morning, 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Is there anything that you'd like to leave with our listeners or that I should make sure that I include in this today?
We just want to know that this is an opportunity for everyone. Race relations affects everyone in this city, even if you think that it may not. It
What
does.
are a couple ways that it does affect everyone?
A couple ways that it affects everyone. If you look at this past 12 months and you think about economic opportunities that have been lost in this city, if you think about from the talent side, people who have said, I'm not coming to St. Louis, I'd rather go to Indianapolis. Those are huge impacts that we have as it relates to workforce development. And we have to be paying attention to those. And in addition to the protests, the deaths, right? We just had another young man shot a couple days ago. We cannot continue with this type of behavior. And I think that one of the most important ways that we can disrupt the current behavior is by showing people that we value them, that we care about them, we care about their life outcomes, we want them to do well, black, white, or brown. And again, the only way we can do that is by understanding that people are human. And if we have dehumanized people along the way because we think they're thugs, then we don't care.
Racist,
We don't care about their life outcomes because they're not human to us. So we've got to change change that type of thinking. And the Listen, Talk, Learns, I think, again, are the first step to that.
They are a great opportunity to do so, and I'm so thankful for this. Your organization and you, Rena Hodgett-Carroll, Executive Director of Diversity Awareness Partnership in St. Louis, dapstl.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's it for this week. If you have questions or comments or have something you'd like to include in the community calendar, you can leave a message on our message box at 314-333-8369, 314-333-8369. And for more information about our show or any of our guests, you can visit us online and listen to the podcasts at Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. And search Community Connection with Jade Harrell. You all be blessed, do blessed, and take care.